Welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. I am your host, Coach Charlene, and I am extremely excited to have a new friend here with me, and her name is Diana. Welcome to the show, Diana.
Thank you for inviting me, Coach Charlene, and it's so exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. Now, how did I meet? I usually try to talk about how I met the person, and I think I actually met you because you're in the Caritas coaching program, and
Mhm.
just a beautiful individual. And so I'm really excited to hear more of your story. And I just want to set a little bit of context. And so I started this podcast truly because I had to find my voice. There was a moment that chose me, for instance, in 2020 when we were having the COVID-19 and the racial injustice and things like that. That's the dream kind of dropped into my spirit then. But then it took me about 2 years to birth it. But I think that there's moments in our lives that call us into them, that causes us to disrupt something or to add value to something or transform ourselves in the process. And that's what I like unpacking in the podcast. I like to unpack different moments. So, but before we start getting into your moments, I would love for you to tell us just who you are. Who is Diana?
Thank you. No, well, I appreciate this platform. I truly do. And when you approached me to come and talk about my journey, I thought it was more about the journey for caring science and my Caritas coach kind of journey. But I really appreciate you looking into the whole of me because what does make a person? And I hope that when people hear that, they know that any journey is possible in whatever they want to do, right? In every level of our career, we're always still asking ourselves, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I
Yeah,
truly believe that that's what pulls you back, right?
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so a little about myself. I'm Diana. I started my career as I always say this because you learn this from different nurses. I am a first career choice nurse, if that makes sense, because we have a
Yes.
lot of second career nurses. And so all I've known my whole life has been nursing, right? I was a new grad at a large academic medical hospital. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. It really shaped me in who I am today. And I started as a med tele nurse, then I transitioned to ICU, which is my love, critical care, really being the nurse and advocate for the whole patient, every single piece of that patient and family members. And then I ultimately chose I've always been involved with the professional governance structure as soon
Mm.
as I can qualify after my first year as a new grad. And that is truly my calling. My love is bringing the work to the people and having their voices dictate what goes next because they are the ones doing the work. And that, again, time and time pulls me back. That's why I chose leadership. That's why I chose the magnet journey. I'm currently the magnet program director um, at a medical center, and that we're on our journey to our first designation. And
Yes.
what is that like? Bringing up our nurses and telling them that they are important, they have a voice, and this is how we're going to do it to share your voice. And this is why it's so important to have you at the seat of the table every single time, every decision that touches your workflow, you need a voice in. And similarly, along when we introduce that to nursing, we lift every profession up because when we recognize that the workflow touches this person, this profession, whatever it might be, oh, well, then we should have them there to speak for themselves and share their workflow. And I've really noticed in my last year in this institution, almost a year, I've really seen that difference. I've also seen that difference in and struggle in what it's like to embrace that change too, because people now are on different grounds and they're like, well, where do I stand in this? Or how do I support this? Or what does it mean for me? And that's always a normal conversation, just kind of like when we look upon ourselves and ask, well, what do I want to do when I grow up? That's the same
Yeah.
with their profession. How does this affect me? But also, how can I contribute to it? It's always a two-way street. And so so, Charlie, when you ask me, what is it, who am I always think, what does it pull me, what is it in nursing that pulls me back? And it's really helping connect those light bulb moments and saying, oh, I have a say in this. Oh, I get to dictate this because this is my profession. And I truly just love that. That is my passion and helping that
Well, I
connect that
can
bridge.
tell that that is your indeed passion, and I think that's beautiful because as I mean, as you know, and as my audience knows, I just recently retired in July, and so one of the most fulfilling things for me was to be able to have a voice into what my practice should be. And so I think that's really wonderful. So that means that you're like totally for the people. You're really
Mhm.
a trailblazer for healthcare workers. And I think that's really beautiful because when your voice is heard, when you're actually encouraging people to step into their greatness and to say, hey, you have a say so in this, I think that's beautiful. And I think that nurses, physicians, whoever is there, they feel more confident and they feel more valued when they're allowed to participate in that way. And so, thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I'm wondering, Diana, have you in your journey? So, how long have you been in the profession?
I've been a nurse for a decade now.
Okay, awesome. So, were there any moments, Diana, in your profession where you kind of didn't have the passion that you have right now? Did that evolve over time, you finding where you fit? Just in case somebody needs a little bit of, context on helping them to move through a barrier or something like that.
Yeah, well, Charlene, thank you so much for asking that question. I will say I have never, ever in my profession doubted my purpose as a nurse. A nurse, never, because I knew that it was a privilege. Every role I had, every type of care I delivered, every hug I gave, every word or help that I gave a colleague or a patient, I never took that for granted. So I knew that it was a privilege to do. And I truly mean that because even when I am just a listening box for a colleague who's experiencing a really traumatic day, like that's my purpose as a nurse. I don't doubt that for a moment. Or when a family is angry and abusive to a colleague or one of your nurses, and as a leader, you're able to stand up for them or say and set the boundaries of, we are here to provide the best care, but you do not get to speak to anyone like that because we are all human beings together. That's my role as a nurse. I don't doubt that at all. However, I would say that in one point in my leadership journey, it's really important when you have a leader. When a leader who is directly your leader tries to sow doubt within yourself, I think that is when I had doubt, where it made me question, oh, am I not aligning my priorities to my leader and the organization? Because that, as a nurse, we always want to do the best we can. We never
Yeah,
doubt that nurses are ever trying not to do the right thing, right?
right.
And so, and it's not to say anything particular about the leader. It's that situation we were all in. And sometimes, and actually this brings me back to my caring science Caritas coach journey, in that I'm so grateful that I am in the Caritas coach program because, it took me a few years to realize that that mistrust, that seed of doubt could have not could have been tried to penetrate my belief of what I am as a nurse. But was it really about me or was it about the other person, or it was just the kind of situation we were in and where we set up for success? I always use that word because when there are mistakes that happen, when there are things that occur that are not along the intended workflow, is it the system, or do we rarely say it's the person who is purposefully trying to cause harm? No one that I know that is a nurse truly wants to cause harm because they took that oath. We all took that oath. We have
Absolutely.
bad days and might slip and say something that we don't mean, but I truly never do not believe anyone's out there to cause harm as a nurse. So in my leadership journey, where even when I felt that disconnect with my leader, I don't think it was my leader. It could have been the system. And I say that to say that it caused me to think differently, but it reminds me I'm a nurse here for a reason. So, how am I going to take this and turn it into something where it's not internal, but how are we going to fix the system? And so the Caritas Coach program and the Caring Science program truly either reignites that fire within me and shares that, we are on this journey for a reason. We are all where we're meant to be at this exact time. And Dr. Watson's words and her 10 Caritas processes all play a part when you even have a seed of doubt, when you have a little bit of misstep, mistrust. Look into those Caritas processes and you will find the relation that will help bring you back to nursing. At least that's what I believe. So that's my
Yes.
very long
And
answer.
I absolutely believe that too, because that was like a huge pillar in my story with caring science being integrated. When I recognized and I actually became the work instead of me doing the work, that's where a lot of power and a lot of confidence and a lot of transformation took place for me. So I love what you're saying, though. There may be challenges. It could be from up above or, laterally. But the responsibility really turns back to us and how we're going to show up. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
also, too, love Caring Science because it helps caregivers take a really concentrated effort to look at themselves and to see, let me see if I'm holding on to a little bit of anger. Let me see if I'm like holding on to a little bit of unforgiveness because of a situation that I just had at work or whatever. So I love that. And that's a beautiful way that you explained that. Caring science for nurses, I think, and actually beyond nursing, because this like really is transcendent to humanity. Humanity is suffering right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so this particular theory happens to help us with dealing with interactions with our peers and with our leaders and things like that. So, Diana, it looks like you found your voice pretty early in the profession and you've been just going really strong. How are you? How are
Well,
you there? Have you found your voice, Diana? Because I think this is truly what this is about too. Like as a nurse, I was in the profession for a long time. I got to a point where I didn't have a voice, but then I found my voice. Then I began to speak up. But I don't think I would have spoke up if I didn't find my voice. So where are you in that theme?
yeah, no, thank you, Charlie. That's a great question. I did not get here myself. I had so many seeds of doubt throughout every part of my journey, every change that happened, either going into a new specialty in clinical care, going into leadership as a new leader, going back to school, whatever there is struggles. I am by far from perfect, Charlene,
Yes,
definitely,
none of us.
definitely. I owe it to my leaders, all my mentors since day one as a nurse. Oh my goodness, on every level. My preceptors from when I was a new grad are still my people that I turn to, right?
Oh, that's
My
awesome.
leaders who taught me how to be an effective leader and how to address change through messaging. Oh my goodness, this person I still text and call to this day, and my leaders at every level and every step. I know that I've always had a voice because from the front line all the way to my CNE and my CEO and my VP have always allowed me to speak. And not even allowed, has listened when I
Right.
spoke. And I think that makes a difference. It really,
Absolutely. Yeah,
I know
because
it makes a
I mean,
difference.
your voice is important. If someone shows you value and they honor what you have to bring to the
Mm-hmm,
table, of course, you're going to feel like super like, oh man, this is really awesome. I'm totally all the way in. But I do know on the flip side, there are times when that is not the
mm-hmm.
case. Right. And
Well,
so,
it happens more than that. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very
absolutely.
lucky. I count myself very lucky.
Well, and I was
Very
going to say
lucky.
that you are so fortunate, and I'm so glad that that has been your experience, and that actually makes me unpack a key. That mentorship part is so critical those that really believe in you and that are willing to invest the time, the energy, and the effort into helping you to get pushed along. And I love to hear that you're so connected with a lot of them. That's super awesome. That is super awesome. And so I have a question. So as we're talking about this, I always like to ask my guests, what if there's a nurse or a healthcare worker out there? I want to expand that because it's beyond nursing. It's the nursing assistant, it's the OVN, it's the support staff, it's anybody that's working in the healthcare system. What would you say to someone now that, okay, we know that it was very traumatic during 2020, 2021, and even, up until where we are today, some people are still struggling. So, what would you say to a struggling peer that kind of feels stuck in the sense that they're losing their passion and they're just stuck? So, what would be some words of wisdom from you, Diana, for these particular people?
Well, Charlene, I'm glad you asked me because we have a community practice meeting on Tuesday, and my colleague asked me to start with the icebreakers. And I really thought about this, and you know, in healthcare, it is not an easy job we do. It is not. And I remember 10 years ago when I came in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and thought I was going to change the world. And and then when you don't, you're like, well, why can't I do this or why can't I do that? And so in thinking of this icebreaker, I ask you, what is your joy at work? What is your joy for the day? What is your joy of that interaction? And then that's your joy. Nobody can take that away from you. That's what you took of that situation. For example, you and I, Charlene, could be in say, an ethical situation with a patient, and all we were trying to do all day was get the patient to eat one piece of whatever it is. And maybe at hour 11, we finally get that patient to eat. But we went through 11 hours of constant, continual strife, right?
Yeah.
That's my joy at hour 11 when we finally got that patient to feel comfortable enough to take that step that was needed to get into their health journey. That's the same with you and me at work, right? What is our joy? Just like when we're home, maybe that one moment we have with your family member, that could be a pivotal moment in their life. How do we know? And so, what's your joy? And number two, be authentic to your joy. How do you find
Yes.
that? I do not find joy every day, right? It's hard. Sometimes it's hard, but you have to try to choose that one point of, why do you come back? Why? What are we here for? And you heard my privilege when I can support as a nurse in whatever role that may be is really my joy. If I sat in the hallway and heard a patient's story, and just, even if they didn't know who I was, and just sat there and just was there, even when I pick up trash in the hallway and I know that that prevented someone from slipping, or
Yeah,
I, or
absolutely.
now my home is a little cleaner. My home, which is my workplace, I call it my home because I treat it like it is. It's cleaner than I left it. That's
Yes.
my joy, right?
I love that. I did, but you know what you said was significant, Diana. It's a choice. You choose joy. You're not letting like the everything that's around you. Yeah, everything is happening. It's dark. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Just like the scenario that you described, 11 hours, and then boom, they finally eat. So how were you those 11 hours getting up until the moment? It makes you really think about that. Like, were you in the, and that's also why I bring in caring science, because man, that would be really tough for 11 hours, frustrating in a sense, if you don't choose joy, if you don't go for what you're trying to do. So I really love how you describe that, because it could just me simply making it through the day. I made it.
Hmm.
I touched lives. I'm joyful. So I love that. And it is a choice. So let me ask you a question, Diana. Have you, or why don't you share with us a caring moment that you've had with in your profession that you can think of that really touched your heart?
Oh.
I know you've probably had so many of them. It doesn't have to be big. It could be just something because I want to just amplify how important moments are as well.
I know. I'm just trying to pinpoint that. I think the most profound thing that I've heard recently, I left the organization that I was at for a very long time in this new role. And when I was connecting with someone recently, um, they said something to me that I didn't even know I was doing at the time. And it was a caring moment for me, I feel, because what that person said, even if they didn't know what it meant so much to me because it means that it means I was valued. I felt that value within me, and that someone saw something that I, again, didn't even realize was happening. So, what happened was that I was a frontline clinician, and at the time, I think I was, and then I was also a chair in our professional governance structure. And I was in a meeting with several leaders, and this person who is also a frontline, but my chair elect, or the person who would take over for me once I was done. But we were in a meeting with several leaders, and there was a leader who was questioning, "Oh, well, you guys should do this, or why don't we do this?" And this is what we're doing. And because I knew our bylaws, and this person's this person's role wasn't actually that to advise me. They were more of a partner. And I was apparently, I
Mhm.
clearly said, well, actually, this is actually not your role. Your role is to come in and listen and share with your peers, but we actually have an advisor. It's this person that we connect with. However, you have really great ideas, and we would love to connect and partner with you more to utilize your expertise in this, in whatever it is that we're running and project we're working on. And that person who asked a lot of questions, not because they um, just because they didn't know their role clarity. They just didn't know. And this is a leader, several levels ahead of me. And this leader completely understood and said, well, thank you for clarifying what my role is in this structure. And now I know what my role is, and I know who to turn to share these advice with. And I also don't have that stress on me, which I thought I was in that role.
Wow.
and um and I never knew, I didn't know, but this is several years later. And my colleague actually told me that this year. He and I are both in leadership positions now. And he said to me, wow, you did that. And you had so much courage to do that. And I was like, oh, I mean, I remember that day, but I don't remember having that profound effect on this person. And
That's
it just,
great.
it was really great. I was like, oh wow. And in that moment, it reminded me again of why I chose this role. That our nurses on every level have a voice, every level, and that's how we come together to make decisions, and that's so powerful. And I was able to do that because I had, again, amazing mentors and peers and leaders who supported me in that. So I hope
Yeah.
to bring that where I am now.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you for that. And then I always, Diana, well, before I ask my three wisdom gems, I'm wondering what would you like to see for the future of nursing?
Oh, oh my goodness, this is such a great question. It really is, Coach Charlene, because my husband is a nurse as well, and I always share that because the nurse dynamics are always fun, and he's a frontliner, and I'm in leadership, so we always have these conversations. And I told him that I am worried about the future of nursing because my generation of nurses value different things that the historical leadership model does not connect on. And so
Mm.
when I think of great leadership and the mentors that I had, I'm I'm worried who will come and take the place of our leaders currently, and how will we change what leadership looks like to fit the needs of our new future generations. I truly believe that. We talk about different generations. We have 5 different generations in the workplace right now in nursing, and we all have our little quirks and habits, whatever it is, but it's glaringly obvious that the millennials and the Gen Xers do not want the same things as what we have right now. And so
Yeah.
how do we meet them where they're at and provide a good balance for the future of nursing leadership? I truly think about that.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's a very powerful conversation, to be honest, because I mean, if you think about it, we're going to be the patients. And so you
mhm.
want to make sure that the same, you're getting everything that you hope to get when you come into an organization. So yeah, I thank you for that. And then one other question. What do you wish someone would have told you before you went into the nursing profession? Is there anything that you wish someone would have told you about nursing?
I don't know. I'm weird, Charlene, in that
No,
I
and it
like to
might
learn.
not be. It might not be.
Well,
You
I
might be
like to
good.
learn the hard way, apparently. That's why I say that. Because I have gotten into so many situations by learning the hard way.
Hey, that's good.
So, so as a human being, I am just used to like going through the trenches because and my husband likes to make fun of me, right? I don't listen to him. And
Yeah.
he goes, you always have to learn the hard way. And so for me, will I even want to change the hard way that I had to learn? Because it made me into who I am today,
Yeah,
right? And so,
absolutely.
but I actually do want to point out, you see my little post-it behind me.
Yes, I see
This
it.
is my home setup. But actually, oh, it's this post-it. Um, I was taking modules about intrinsic motivation. I have this on my desktop because it helps remind me of that joy when I need it. And it says, what causes high performance, which is intrinsic motivation? It's autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Love
And
it.
so, and yeah, so, when you think about it, how do you become a master of something? It's usually when you have to go through all the bad things, right?
Yes.
Or the hard way, learning the hard way. Autonomy. You chose to go through the hard way.
Yep,
I say this because I chose it's not that
absolutely.
I chose it purposefully sometimes, but it just happens that way, right? And lastly, the purpose. What is your purpose? As a leader, as a magnet program director that hopes to inspire nursing excellence to our nursing profession, my purpose is nurses. It's the workforce. It's if I can inspire my nurses to have that autonomy, mastery, and their purpose, I know that they will provide the best care to our patients and to themselves and to
Absolutely.
themselves.
Absolutely. That's great. Hey, those
And
almost
so,
can be your three wisdom gems there, Diana.
well,
But now we're going to step into Diana's top three wisdom gems that you could provide to our listening audience, just to encourage
well,
them and motivate them.
yeah, well, firstly, thank you again, Coach Charlene, for this opportunity to share. I truly appreciate it. And again, I don't take it for granted. And so, my personal gems, um, be authentic as much as you can. Be authentic. Be kind. Kindness goes a long way. And kindness starts with yourself. And I totally say that, but I don't practice that every day, right? But you really have to be kind with yourself. And I love this caring science journey because it reminds me of that. It really does. Because when you are unkind to yourself, everyone else gets the effect of that as well. I truly
Yes.
believe that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I truly believe that. And then my last departing advice again is what is your joy every day? What is your joy in work every day, in every interaction, and whatever you do at work and at home? What is your joy every day? So
I love
those are
it.
my three.
Well, I love those gems and thank you so much. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come and share who you are. And I really appreciate it because I know that stories are powerful and they're transformative and they encourage people that are maybe experiencing something that's not so great. And when they hear other people's story, it gives them hope and it gives them something to cling on to. So I appreciate you coming and blessing us on this show. And I look forward to having more conversations about just your journey. So, is there any way, what if someone wants to kind of reach out to you and maybe get some advice or something like that? Do you have contact information or you want to get them
Oh,
on social media?
yeah, absolutely. I every time I meet budding nurses or nursing students, I love mentoring and I would love to share my story if you need or any questions or even connect you. So please do reach out to me. I think LinkedIn might be the best. It's probably the easiest to find me.
Okay.
And you can always message me or add me. And I always am open to meeting and supporting you in any way. But this platform is incredible, Coach Charlene. Thank you.
Oh.
And thank you for preaching what you share is that you mentor, such as myself, you mentor all these budding people in the nursing profession and sharing your voice. And I think that's so powerful. And I appreciate you again.
I want to thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of When the Moment Chooses You. I'm your host, Coach Charlene, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Each journey we've shared today is a reminder that when the moment chooses you, the possibilities are endless.